Hello, welcome to NC Exclusive. I am Benga Aboroa. My guest today on NC Exclusive served as Minister of Higher Education and Training from 2018 to 2019, having previously served as Minister of Science and Technology from 2014 to 2018. She was born on the 7th of December 1953. She holds master's degrees in education from the University of London and linguistics from the University of Stellenbosch. She has been a member of Parliament since 1994, during which time she served as ANC Caucus Whip and chairperson of the NCOP, as well as a member of the Portfolio Committee on Education. My guest taught at distinguished institutions such as Ernest Bevine School, Town College of Education and University of Botswana, and also the University of Cape Town. In the mid-90s, she served as both Deputy Chairperson and Chairperson of the Tertiary Education Fund of South Africa, TEFSA. She also served as Minister of Basic Education and Home Affairs. My guest obtained a doctorate in education from the University of Pretoria in 2019. Ladies and gentlemen, my guest today is the Honourable Minister of Foreign Affairs, Minister of International Relations of the Republic of South Africa, Dr. Naledi Pandor. Thank you very much for joining us on NC Exclusive. We do appreciate your time.
Thank you and good morning. Thank you very much for inviting me.
Good morning, Dr. Pandor. Now, South Africa has a rich history of activism and anti-apartheid struggle. How does this legacy shape your approach to diplomacy, and how do you leverage it to promote South Africa's interests and values on the global stage?
Well, I think I certainly was very fortunate to come from a family that was committed and remains committed to the freedom and empowerment of African people, but also a family which, through political activism and us spending many years in exile, allowed us an opportunity to have a wide view of the world and to build connections with institutions and friends all over the world. And I think this has been of great help in the job that I've had since 2019, in that as Minister of International Relations, I've had to traverse the world. I think I've been perhaps somewhat unfortunate, as have been current ministers of foreign affairs, because we've been going through all these emergencies. We had the COVID-19 pandemic, which interrupted our work, and now we're confronted with the conflict between Ukraine and Russia. All of these impact on the work that we have to do.
Now, Dr. Pandor, talking about the conflict in Ukraine and Russia, there's been a lot of controversies and flip-flopping from South Africa's government with regards to the ICC warrant and Russian President Vladimir Putin, who is billed to attend the BRICS summit in August in South Africa. While your government is not sure what it will do with Putin, because that's the feelers we're getting if he does come to South Africa for the BRICS summit. The Western Cape Premier, I spoke with him, Alan Winde, a few weeks ago, and he told me it will set its law enforcement officers on him. So what is the South Africa's government's official take on the visit of Russian President Vladimir Putin?
Well, we have indicated that this is a very complex matter that requires a great deal of deliberation by government, looking at the legal position as well as the privileges that international personalities enjoy under international law. So we've said we're getting legal advice, and Cabinet is discussing exactly how we would react to this warrant of the ICC. We remain members of the ICC. We have affirmed the treaty and continue to be members actively of the ICC. However, the warrant does pose a conundrum because I think it would be really difficult for South Africa to execute a warrant against the sitting head of state. Nevertheless, the government is still considering the matter, and once we have looked at all the aspects, including discussions with all the leaders of the BRICS Forum countries, we would then make a determination.
Thank you, Honourable Minister, for clarifying your government's position on that. Now, South Africa has been an active participant in global peacekeeping missions. Could you share some specific examples of your country's contributions to peace and security efforts in other countries? I do remember the significant role your country played, Pretoria Accords, in ending the war in Tigray. What role, if any, is South Africa playing to end this recent conflict in Sudan? And what lessons could we learn from South Africa's peace diplomacy?
Well, firstly, the search for peace is a foundation of our own foreign policy. We, as South Africa, took a decision at the inception of our democracy 29 years ago that wherever we would have the opportunity, we would all encourage those in conflict to search for peace. This is why our president and other leaders on the continent are now seeking to play a role with respect to the Ukraine-Russia conflict. And again, a role of drawing the two to a negotiating table so that we could find a way of ending this conflict. We are playing a similar role with respect to the Democratic Republic of Congo, where we have troops deployed under MONUSCO, the UN mission in Congo. We also have troops deployed combating an incursion by an extremist terror group in the northern part of Mozambique,
Cabo Delgado.
Cabo Delgado. So our contribution is always to assist to end conflict and to seek a resolution that would lead to peace and stability. Where there are threats, such as in Mozambique, clearly we would deploy our armed forces because we believe you must repel terrorists and extremists because they are very, very destructive and shouldn't be allowed an opportunity to get a foothold in any territory.
Dr. Pandor, I'm happy you mentioned the DRC, and that brings me to my next question. And you also mentioned MONUSCO, the United Nations Stabilization Mission in the Congo. SADC, South Africa, is a very important member of the Southern African Development Committee of Countries. They announced last week that they were going to send troops to the eastern DRC to help to quell the violent extremism there. And if you look at the DRC, you have the most expensive UN peacekeeping operation there, 16,000 uniformed personnel of MONUSCO. You have the East African contingent there, and then this newly deployed SADC forces. What will be their mandate? And do you think the situation in Congo requires a military solution?
Well, we have already what's called a Force Intervention Brigade in the DRC, which is made up of SADC member states. We've agreed that we should strengthen that deployment because clearly the rebels still have a stronghold there and are posing a real danger to the civilian community and to the stability of the DRC. So we've said we wish to strengthen the initiative that we have as SADC in that region. We've also appealed to the UN Secretary General that we do need greater assistance in the eastern DRC. We know there are plans for a drawdown of the UN mission, and we'd like to see some of the resources, both equipment and other resources provided to us as SADC countries. But in our deliberations, we've agreed that we will commit forces in order to assist the DRC to combat these rebel groups.
Now, Dr. Pandor, let's talk about the energy crisis and also climate change. Africa has the lowest levels of access to energy in the world. The continent is the least polluter, but we feel the consequences of climate change more. Your country, Republic of South Africa, is doing a lot in terms of renewable energy, and it's also suffering the constant blackouts that we now call load shedding. The continent needs energy to grow and to improve the lives of its people. So considering Africa's energy needs as against Africa's low access to energy, how do we balance the quest for energy against the campaign for climate change?
Well, I think in terms just the subject energy, I would like to make reference to the African Continental Free Trade Area and the opportunities that it opens up for Africans to cooperate far more than we are doing at present. I think there are massive opportunities on the continent to increase the energy supply. I also think we should use innovative energy sources such as solar, as well as wind, where this is possible. But I believe not enough has been done with respect to hydro electricity production. If we could do work on the Inga Dam hydro energy project with the DRC, if we could achieve sufficient levels of stability to invest in that Inga project, we would be able to produce sufficient supply to address more than half the needs of the continent. So collaboration, unified action by Africans can help to resolve our problems. We tend to address our problems at individual countries and don't make sufficient use of the strength that is brought by combining our efforts into a unified African effort to address African problems. And I think we need to devote more time to look at how we can harness all our resources to address our particular problems. Because individually, we can't solve them, but I think as Africa, thinking clearly, planning carefully, we can address our problems.
There should be more collaboration amongst African countries. Now, looking at another issue, your government, the government of the Republic of South Africa, believes that Israel should be classified as an apartheid state and that the United Nations General Assembly should establish a committee to verify whether it satisfies the requirements. Why has your country taken this position, Honourable Minister?
Well, firstly, let me say we're very surprised that as the UN member states, we speak about respecting sovereignty of other nations and territorial integrity. Israel is at fault in both principles, and yet no ICC warrant has been issued against any leader of Israel. The people of Palestine do not enjoy freedom, do not enjoy justice, do not enjoy human rights. Their land is seized on almost a daily basis. Settlements are built. They have to carry passes, as Black South Africans had to do under apartheid. They can't live where they choose, as we couldn't under apartheid. So the features that are experienced and are the daily living experience of Palestinian people mirror exactly the injustices that we experienced under apartheid. It's in that regard that a crime against humanity, as apartheid was defined, really requires us as the international community to pay more attention to ensuring that the people of Palestine enjoy freedom and justice. And as the international community, we should be horrified at what we see every day, the injustices against these people. And yet we are silent. Why? Because it is people in the Middle East. If it were elsewhere, we would all be up in arms. But because it's Palestinians, we say nothing. This is absolutely horrific. And for me, it's an illustration of this double standard we have, where some are deserving of freedom and justice, and others, because of their color, because of their religion, because of where they are located, they don't deserve equal treatment.
The world does indeed need to pay more attention to the Palestinian cause. Now, finally, Dr. Pandor, before I let you go, I know you spoke a bit to the subject of the African Continental Free Trade Area Agreement. A lot of people see it as a game changer. This AfTA aims to boost intra-African trade and economic integration. What steps is your country, the Republic of South Africa, taking to maximize the benefits of AfTA for its economy and the broader African continent? How do you address potential challenges or trade imbalances?
Well, I think one of the things that we're doing is to identify sectors in which we believe there's potential for growth in South Africa, and we believe we should use these as the foundation for our greater trade with the African continent. Of course, for us, Africa is our #1 trading partner. This is very important. Many people don't know this. But what we have to do is to increase the productive and manufacturing capacity of South Africa and the continent broadly. We also must look at how we share manufacturing resources and opportunities with other countries on the continent. Because as I said earlier, to just think of ourselves as one element of the continent won't give us the huge rewards of intra-African trade. So what we must do, our automotive industry should align with Nigeria's plans with respect to the automotive industry. We should look at which components should be produced in which country, and we should align our industrial strategies in order to ensure that all of us benefit from a common trade area as espoused in the AFCFTA. So we are certainly, within the SADC region, looking at how we increase manufacturing ability in our neighborhood, how we support countries to industrialize, because this is very important. We're also looking at all the logistical infrastructure, logistics and infrastructure associated with trade. What we must do as Africa is not be excited that we have an AFCFTA. We must work on implementation, work to ensure we produce in Africa, work to ensure we trade with each other, because it's practical action which will give us the required success that is espoused in the AFCFTA.
And on that positive note, I would like to say thank you to you, Dr. Naledi Pandor, Honourable Minister of International Relations and Cooperation, Republic of South Africa. It's been an absolute pleasure speaking with you. Thank you very much for your time, and thanks for talking to us at News Central Television. And that's it on NC Exclusive. My guest was the Minister of International Relations and Cooperation, Republic of South Africa, Dr. Naledi Pandor. I'm Benga Aboroa. See you next time on NC Exclusive. Bye-bye.